I'm currently working on a project that requires spline dovetails. I decided to build a jig for repeatability. Because I'm doing spline dovetails, I set this up to use the router table. I set the guide bar up in the miter slot the same way you would if you were making a jig for a table saw. A key element for a jig of this design is a V-shaped cradle that will securely hold the workpiece. The number of these little angled supports I add to the cradle is definitely overkill. If I were doing this again, I think I would only use about half as many. This mark I'm putting on is to show where the center line of the router bit will be. I then made a perpendicular reference line to that one, and that's where I lined up the bottom of the V-shaped cradle. This ensures that the cut is square to the workpiece. With the cradle attached, I then started routing out the channel that the dovetail bit will go through. And this is when I discovered the first flaw in this design. After increasing the clearance, I was able to try again. For my initial test cut, I set the bit height at something that seemed appropriate. It turned out the bit was slightly too high. After lowering the bit, the second cut came out much better. I changed the angle of my table saw blade to match the dovetail bit. I then cut my splines. There was a little bit of trial and error on the width to get them to fit perfectly. With a good test fit out of the way, I added centerline markings. These will be used to line up the cuts on my workpiece. Overall, I'm happy with this jig, but I can think of things I'd do to make it even better. Stay tuned for version 2.0.